Hello everyone. So a lot of people would have probably seen this before me, but this happened today, and you probably heard of Grip Media before. It's a media organisation in Ireland, and it's the only media organisation, along with a few independent journalists, that are actually asking tough questions and holding the government to account. And if we had more like Grip Media in our media, because RT and the Irish Examiner, etc., is pretty much controlled opposition from the government. It's pretty much government propaganda. It's telling you the difference between Grip Media and RT and etc. and the mainstream media is Grip Media giving you the information and telling you, take for yourself, digest it or whatever you want, take for yourself what you take of the article, whatever it may be. RT are telling you must think like this or you're far right extremist. If you question anything, that's what it is. And we see on Garda Síochána, this is basically what on Garda Síochána means in Irish, is keep us of the peace. Keep us off censorship, more like, keep us off the government orders, just following orders, as they say. Obviously, it came from not on Garda Síochána, obviously it's coming from the top up. So somebody high up, or it could be Drew Howes either, it's probably some minister that wants to suss out more information. It's pretty much 1984 all over again. They want to find out people's information. Again, this is a good media company that are asking the government questions or holding the government to account. This is very sus, if you ask me, and particularly the legislation. If you look at the legislation, it is supposed to be the terrorist, pretty much for terrorists, right? Section 63, which is the terrorist financing and money launderers. The legislation to do with criminal gangs and pretty much terrorist organisations. They were looking for data, the private data of people who logged into their X account. You just think about that for a second, and just remember, this is not North Korea or China or Iran. This is the Republic of Ireland in 2025. And again, it's many, many things we've seen with the hate speech bill, particularly because freedom in Ireland is, and as J.D. Vance said, the Vice President of the United States, across Europe, it's coming to a close, unfortunately. We've seen recently in many countries bringing in a totalitarian legislation. We see it in Ireland. They want to restrict people's freedom. They want to shut people up. They don't want people to think freely. And that's what's happening here too. They don't want Grip Media giving people the information that RT won't do, because RT telling people what to take. Grip Media, as I say, give the information to you. You take whatever you want. You digest the whole information, and you make up your own mind. And that's the proper journalism. You let the public know what the information is. You let the public know all the facts, and let the public decide what is right, what is wrong. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. It doesn't matter what RT tell you. It's what the Irish public take of it. And again, that's the main thing about journalists. You tell the people the information and let them process it. But again, this is very shady. It's very sus. It's every language under the sun. It's nearly go as far as, because again, every day we hear about upholding international order, etc., and democracy, freedom, etc. This is not democracy. This is not freedom. This is trying to silence people, because again, they're trying to get people who contacted Grip Media. Take for example, even Garda informers who were squealing about things that were happening in Garda Síochána. We have to remember a few years ago with Maurice McCabe and John Wilson, and they were members of Garda Síochána. They said it was the biggest criminal gang in the state, and they spoke out about Garda corruption and put everything on the line to speak out the truth. And again, they won in the end, but again, there was huge thing pushed back to try and shut them up within Garda Síochána, within the state. You can write the book on it, really. But yeah, it is pretty sus. It's very chilling. It is very, very chilling. Again, when you remember, you have to think for a second that it is in Ireland. This is not North Korea, the North Korea government, or the Chinese Communist Party coming looking for the information. It's not them. It's the Irish government, the Irish state, on behalf of Garda Síochána, the keepers of the peace. Now, thankfully, it didn't go ahead because they didn't get their way, unfortunately. Because again, none of the Section 63, nothing applies to it. Terrorist financing what? Money laundering what? Like, there's many cases of money laundering we could talk about in terms of the direct provision sets, and the Gardaí don't want to know about it. And not to mention shops turning up with no customers in them, all over the country. The Gardaí don't want to know about that either. It's certain things the Gardaí want to know about. But again, this is very sus, because again, it's a media organisation holding the government to account and doing the work of the other medias. Because again, we're knowing information that we would never know from RT. Many times Grip Media has reported on stuff that RT would not tell you. And that's what we need. We need journalists like that. We need media organisations. I have to say, Grip Media has always been very straightforward, telling everybody the truth and the information, letting people digest it themselves, not telling people what to take and how to take. But thankfully it didn't go ahead, because again, it didn't happen. But I do suggest people have a look at Grip Media's video, to have a video up on it, because I could talk all day about it, but it is very sus because they were looking for people's DMs, people who DM'd Quip Media, other information, IP addresses, pretty much in 1984, pretty much we want to know who's talking about us, etc. Like, it's something that China would do, the Chinese Communist Party, but it's Ireland. You have to remember, this is Ireland. You have to keep in mind yourself. I have to keep in mind myself too, that this is Ireland. And the fact that it's thankfully in Garda Síochána didn't get their way, and shouldn't get their way, because there's no argument, they had no suggestion, we have at least reasonable suspicion that this is happening. None of that. We want it, because we are the state, we are entitled to know, because at the end of the day it is government overreach. It's trying to shut people up, and that's how it is, because they're afraid, the state is afraid. And this is not right, and particularly they were looking for other private individuals, DMs, etc. Thankfully Twitter didn't hand it over to them. But again, it's massive overreach from the Gardaí. And again, you don't see, I see none of the mainstream media, RT, because you hear RT, all the importance of democracy, freedom, etc., etc. Ukraine's freedom, etc., etc. But nothing about when journalists, because they're fellow journalists, they think they'll be asking questions. Why isn't Garda Síochána doing this? But again, RT are controlled opposition. They're basically in the government's pockets, but bailed out by the government. They haven't got a leg to stand on here. But this is very sinister, and I can't say it enough. And I would say Irish people need to be aware of this, because we can't allow this to happen to own individuals, etc., etc., unless there's reasonable suspicion that somebody's involved in the crime. But in this case, there's no suspicion at all. There was nothing at all. They were just kind of wanting to find out, just because. That's the Gardaí's experience, just because. It's abuse of power. It is abuse of power, and particularly the legislation, it has been abused before. Section 33, 63, may I say, 33, 63. He thinks saying 33, 63. But anyway, all the legislation, particularly in terms of police and etc., such, can be abused in a million different ways, because the Irish Constitution, pretty much when these people design the laws, there's always some kind of back alley to get into these legislations, because they always want power and misuse of power, etc., etc., because that's the Irish state for you in modern day 2025, unfortunately. But hopefully, please God, the Gardaí hopefully learned their lesson, because they didn't get their way, and they shouldn't get their way. Just because they're the police of the state, they shouldn't get their way, unless again there's reasonable suspicion, because there's people here that have come in with no identities, etc., so the Gardaí don't want to know anything about them, and they don't care to look up who they are, etc. So why are they going after people who are criticising the government? That's the main point we need to get across. Why are they doing that? When they should be worrying about people who are coming in with no documentation. There's no worry about that under the sun. Thank you.